We have two lettings today. The first one is 8583 City Parks Asphalt Pavement Rehabilitation. The contractor is E. Meyer Contracting Incorporated. E. Period Meyer MEIER Contracting Incorporated. The total base bid is $580,263.60. The first alternative, number 1, the alternative total is $6,120. Alternative 2, the total is $9,110. Alternative number 3 is $3,307.50. Alternative number 4 is $6,050. Alternative number 5 is $12,125. The second bid is from Byrne and Jones Enterprises Incorporated, BYRNE and Jones, JONES Enterprises Incorporated. The total base bid amount is $533,169.10. 533,169.10. Alternative number 1 is $5,595. Alternative number 2 is $6,190. Alternative number 3, $2,418. Alternative number 4, $5,176. Alternative number 5 is $10,059. Our second letting is letting number 8586, O'Fallon Park, Asphalt Pavement Rehabilitation, City Parks, Asphalt Pavement Rehabilitation. Okay. Find the contractor. Byrne and Jones Construction, BYRNE and Jones, JONES Construction. The total bid amount is $553,992.85. The second bid is Gershwin Construction Company Incorporated, GERSHENSON Construction Company Incorporated. The total bid amount $666,895. The next bid is E. Meyer Contracting Incorporated, E. Meyer, MEIER Contracting Incorporated. The total bid amount is $544,113.10. And the lowest bidders can meet Miss Bean out up here in front.
I like that pen.
It's the most fun you can have for $2.50.
Oh, I don't need it.
Yeah, no, it's disposable. And it doesn't break it. What it is.
Varsity Pilot.
It is.
Are we on recording?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hearing number 8176. Hearing number 8176 is being conducted pursuant to Section 26.100.030 of the Revised Code of the City of St. Louis. The purpose of the hearing is to determine whether the conditional use permit issued to Old North Market and Deli, CO Ziad Ali, to occupy 1229 North Market as a convenience store with cooking, no liquor, subject to certain conditions, should be revoked. The conditional use permit number is 121338. The conditions in question are as follows. Item 5, there shall be no sale of items that can be used as drug paraphernalia, including food scales, blunt cigars, glass roses with glass tubes, disposable lighters with pop-off tops, steel scrubbing pads and screens, rolling papers, ephedrine or pseudoephedrine, diet supplements, sleeping aids, bath salts, or substitutes for illegal drugs. Item 6, there shall be no temporary signage off or on premise or posted to the exterior or interior of the windows or doors of the establishment at any given time. Item 7, the applicant must apply for and receive a permit from the City of St. Louis Building Division before posting permanent signage, and the permanent signage must be approved by the Office of the Zoning Administrator before being installed. Item 10, no items will be offered for sale or displayed in front of the property or anywhere on the outside at any given time. The Office of the Zoning Administrator has the burden to prove the conditional use permit conditions have not been complied with. After all evidence of the Zoning Administrator has been presented, then the Board will ask for additional testimony, if any, in support of the revocation. Then the conditional use holder will be given an opportunity to present evidence. Lastly, the Board will hear other testimony in opposition to the revocation, if any. Your testimony is being recorded. When you come forward, please state your name and address and be sworn in. As you testify, please direct your comments to the Board and not to those in the audience. Members of the audience are asked to remain silent and not coach the witnesses. During your testimony, members of this Board may have questions for you. Following the hearing, the Board will proceed with its regular agenda. Following the conclusion of the regular agenda, the Board will deliberate, discuss, and vote on the hearing. The Board will notify the conditional use holder of its decision by mail in about 2 weeks. The Board has in its possession the following documents which are being introduced into evidence. Item 1, a certified copy of the zoning code of the City of St. Louis. Item 2, the conditional use permit number 121338 issued to Old North Market and Deli, CO Ziad Ali, to occupy 1229 North Market as a convenience store with cooking, no liquor, subject to conditions. Item 3, a memorandum from the zoning inspector to the zoning administrator dated May 19, 2015, stating that upon investigation of the property, that the zoning inspector found violations of condition numbers 5, 6, 7, and 10 of the conditional use permit. This memo includes photographs of the violations. Item 4, a letter dated May 19, 2015, sent to Old North Market in Delhi, CO Ziad Ali, from the zoning inspector warning of the violations of condition numbers 5, 6, 7, and 10 of the permit that were found upon a recent site inspection, and the potential for a revocation hearing should the violations not be corrected within 30 days of the date of the letter. Item 5, a memorandum from the zoning inspector to the zoning administrator stating that upon reinvestigation performed on June 23, 2015, the zoning inspector found violations of condition numbers 5, 6, 7, and 10 of the conditional use permit. This memo includes photographs of the violations. Item 6, the public notices for today's hearing. And item 7, a certified letter sent to Old North Market in Delhi, CO Ziad Ali, from the board secretary providing notice of today's hearing. The board asks that the representative of the Office of the Zoning Administrator please step forward at this time and be sworn in.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name for the board.
My name is Myra Turner, and I am the zoning inspector for the city of St. Louis.
Good afternoon. Can you please tell us about the said violations?
Thank you. Okay. Press it over. The said violations are number 5, which is there shall be no sale of items that can be used as drug paraphernalia, including food scales, blunt cigars, glass roses with tubes, disposable lighters with pop-off tops, steel scrubbing pads and screens, rolling papers, ephedrine and pseudoephedrine, diet supplements, sleep aids, bath salts or substitute for illegal drugs. I turned in a report that is as of today. Violation 5 is still there. If you look at the photos, they're still rolling papers and blunts, and what they have is zip sleeves. So it's still there. Violation 6, there shall be no temporary signage on the premises or posted to the exterior or interior of the windows or doors of the establishment at any given time. As of today, if you look at the photos, there's still temporary signage in the windows. Number 7, the applicant must apply for and receive a permit from the City of St. Louis Building Division before posting permanent signage, and the permanent signage must be approved by the Office of the Zoning Administrator before being installed. If you look at the photos, the sign with the name of the business, it had been refaced, but as of today, there is no permit for that. Number 10, no items will be offered or displayed in the front of the property or anywhere on the outside at any given time. If you look at the photos, there's seating outside on the front of the building, and that was as of today.
Okay. So, as of today, you went by, you've given notice over the history of these notifications. You went by there today, you verified that 5, 6, 7, and 10 are still in violation today.
Yes, sir.
And you are very sure in your mind that the conditional permit holder understands exactly what we're asking for, and you've explained it to them, and there's no interpretation problem there?
Sir, Mr. President, I spoke with him today about the signage, about what's there. And he said he would see me at the hearing. So, sir, I did what I could.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions from the board?
You had spoken to the permit holder earlier about these problems over time and gave him warnings and advised him of what you saw as the violations before today?
Yes, sir, I've spoken to him. I sent him a 30-day letter allowing him 30 days to try to bring it in compliance before we ever got to this point.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Thank you. Is there anyone else present who wishes to testify in support of the revocation? If so, please come forward and be sworn in at this time. Seeing none, the board asks the conditional use permit holder to please come forward and be sworn in.
How you doing, gentlemen?
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Please state your name.
My name's Ziad Ali.
Can you please respond to the issues that the zoning inspector has placed on your conditional use permit?
Okay, so where we start the business, like before May, we come in here in this meeting, and we have a signature from the neighborhood for agree, with us, for the convenience store up there. And I bring the signature here where everything is fine. I have the inspector, the building inspector, the sign is up there before I lease this building. I just put like face in it. It's like a papers, we stick them in the sign. And we work like for 3-4 months, and she's coming in, and she tell me she need a permit for the sign. So I come in here one more time, and I ask him, for the permit, and this gentleman, he asked me to bring me big picture. The first time I bring it about the phone. He's right there, right? And he asked me to bring big picture for the both side the building. So I bring him the probably 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks, I can't remember. Anyway, that time I think he's busy. I don't know what's going on, And he tell me, okay, before the meeting will be everything is done, And I just talked to him, about the permit for the sign. And he say, after you finish this, meeting, you come and see me up there.
So what you're referring to is the permit for the business sign, correct?
Yeah.
So, okay, so that is one violation of 4 conditions. And so, the zoning inspector has noted the conditions about selling items that you're not supposed to sell. She's noted items about temporary signage in the window. There's items about having benches out in front of the business. So if this was simply related to a sign and a permit application, my interpretation would be, I understand that, but you go back 30 days here and you're getting letters that you're doing things that all you need to do to correct them is to just remove these items.
Yes, sir.
Something you could do
I
on
did.
an afternoon. So my question is no, do you understand what you're supposed to do?
Not really, because, she asked me about, you have 2 chairs outside, me and my wife, we sit down time, like every night I put it back in the morning, I put it outside to smoke cigarette.
Right.
Everywhere go, you have a chair. I don't have for the customer, I don't sell anything up in the front, nothing. She asked me to move all the sign, I did, I move it. And she asked me to move the shopping cart, I move it.
But the question is that this is all pretty basic for a business owner.
Exactly.
You knew these conditions when you entered into this permit. And so when the zoning inspector simply reminds you that you're not supposed to do that, it's just a matter of taking these things and removing them. And so 30 days later, and this board's time later, we're sitting here discussing this. I don't understand that.
No, sir.
What
She's
efforts
coming
have
up
been
there.
made?
She's coming up there. I asked him what we have to do. First time she asked me anything but, the drugs, you have to move it. And I did it. I sent it back to the company. Anything up there. And she comes this morning, I tell her, how's everything is fine? She don't say nothing, she walk out. And I walk with her outside.
So you're saying...
It's like somebody put like he don't want me there, but I want to know who's this guy, because we have like a business competition, like 3-4 people, and I bet you gentlemen, you're going up there, if you find anything for drugs in my business, shut me down. Or you're going right now, anytime, month later, 2 months later, anything for drugs or for anything, we're selling food, snack, chips, soda, anything else, no. Cigar, we sell cigar. But I see in the whole United States, everybody's selling cigar. Why not me?
So if I were to go
Because
out,
cigar,
if I were to go out there right now, right at this very minute, if I left here and went there right now,
Yes, sir.
besides the sign, you've complied with these other 3 things?
Yes, sir.
They're done right now, except for the sign.
Yeah, except for the sign.
No temporary signage, no benches in the front.
I think she asking me about the open sign. The flashing open sign. How you want to open business? No sign outside, no sign in the window. Flashing, it don't bother nobody.
Permits,
No,
approvals.
this is like open sign, just hang up on
The answer is permits and
For
approvals
open sign?
for any signage.
Sir, it's open sign.
Okay. I have no more questions. Does the board have any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else present who would like to oppose the revocation? If so, please step forward and be sworn in.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so
Yes.
help you God.
Yes.
Please state your name for the board.
I'm William Grun, a neighbor. I live on Warren Street, a block away from the store. And I've lived there 13 years, and there's been other facilities, other stores in that site, and they've been very poor in my mind. And Ollie's store is fully stocked. It's wonderful to have in the neighborhood. It's useful. I think it's well run. And listening to the complaints against it, for instance, rolling papers, I smoke rolling tobacco, American Spirit, and it comes with papers, but it's never enough. So to have a convenience store with rolling papers, Shell Station down here has it, the South Grand convenience store and gas station has that. Any convenience store has rolling papers. Rolling tobacco is very common. As far as signs, you can't know what is available without signs. It's convenient to have something, a notice if something is on sale. And as far as the seating, well, the main thing, as far as cooking goes, there's only 3 places in Old North St. Louis: Church's Chicken, Crown Candy, and La Mancha Coffee House, where you can get food. It's very nice to walk down the block and get a sandwich. So as a neighbor, I find Ollie's store a real addition to the neighborhood. The other places were poor. And as far as seating, you ought to come down 13th Street and see all the people in Jackson Park Apartments that are sitting outside. It's ordinary for people to sit outside. So I don't see any of these things being obstructions to the neighborhood. I think Ollie's store is an addition. So I'd like to see him have no problems with that.
So thank you for coming in today and for stating your points. Just as a clarification to respond back to some of the points you made, I hear you. But when businesses apply for a conditional use, there are certain conditions that are placed upon them. And so when we grant them an opportunity to do business, as you say, in a neighborhood, we thought that it would be a good fit for the neighborhood. There are certain things that we require that they don't do or that they comply with, such as permits for signage. And so, for an example, if I understand where you're coming from, there needs to be signage for people to understand whether a business is open or whether it's there. But it needs to be applied for, it needs to be appropriate, and if we don't regulate that to some degree, someone could put up any kind of sign that they want, whether it would be offensive to the neighbors or a big neon sign or something that bothers you all night long. So there are standards that they have to meet in order to, comply with the location where they are. And the same thing goes with the items that they sell, and the same thing goes with the seating in the front. And so what seems very basic to the neighborhood, in some cases becomes a problem if we don't enforce it. So it's really for the protection of the neighborhood that we enforce the rules and the codes and the procedures. So basically what we're asking the conditional use permit holder to do here is to be in compliance with what they agreed to do when they came to us originally and asked us to open the business. So I think we're just being fair with what we're asking for there. But thank you for your comments. Are there any questions from the board for the gentleman? Okay. Is there anyone else present who would like to oppose this revocation? If so, please step forward and testify. Okay. The matter concerning hearing number 8176 is now closed and will be submitted. Thank you. Can you call the roll, please?
Directors Stobie, excused. Rundy, excused. Hayes.
Here.
Ruff.
Here.
Moore, excused. Gray.
Here.
President Bradley.
Here we have a quorum. I'll call the meeting to order.
Regular business. Recommendation that approval be given as follows from the President. Preliminary approval for letting number 8563, repairs to Lambert International Boulevard over Airflight Drive and West Joint Repair Ticketing Drive at Lambert St. Louis International Airport. Letting number 8573, public improvements to Soulard Market. Addendum number 1 to the plans and specifications for improvements to Lindenwood Park, new stage. Addendum number 1 to the plans and specifications for civil courts, facade, and plaza repairs. Supplemental agreement number 23 to PSA number 889, program management for the Forest Park Master Plan with ACOM. Supplemental agreement number 11 to PSA number 1104, testing and inspection of materials at Lambert St. Louis International Airport with Geotechnology Incorporated. Supplemental agreement number 1 to PSA number 1165, architectural engineering professional service agreement for Government Drive, Wells to Fine Arts, and Wells Drive, Skinker to Hampton, streetscape improvement, Forest Park with Cole and Associates Incorporated. Emergency work orders issued for the months of May, June, and July 2015. From the President and Directors of Public Utilities and Street, recommendation for approval subject to certain conditions for Terminal Railroad Association for Ferry Street roadway and underpass geometry replaced with new lightweight cellular concrete fill embankment constructed with MSE walls, consist of drilled shaft foundations, reinforced concrete end beds, and precast reinforced concrete beams, etc. Green Street, St. Louis, to install a right-in, right-out shared driveway and raised concrete median with associated striping and signing modification on Manchester Avenue, approximately 100 feet west of Manchester, Vandeventer, Shoto Avenue intersection. From the President and Directors of Public Utilities and Parks, Recreation, and Forestry, recommendation for approval subject to certain conditions for City of St. Louis Board of Public Service to grant easement to MSD for part of Sister Marie Charles Park at 154 Elwood. From the Directors of Public Utilities and Streets, recommendation for approval subject to certain conditions for Michael Daniels and Ursula Thatch request to enter city property located at 6001-6007 Pershing Avenue, with the intent to do a geotechnology study in order to allow for residential development of this property. AT&T Missouri access existing AT&T manhole and bore down Lucas and across 11th Street to place on new fiber and one new copper cable into the basement access of the old St. Patrick's Center to serve new building owner. Total right-of-way footage is 55 feet. AT&T to access existing manhole at the site of 4651 Shaw, 450 feet to relocate, place new copper cable to building at 4652 Shaw. AT&T Missouri to cut and restore concrete in the alley to install a fiber handhold over existing conduit from the handhold to bore north 10 feet to customer-owned conduit. AT&T Missouri to access existing AT&T manhole on Pine Street near Old 21st Street. From this manhole, bore approximately 20 feet to place one new copper cable and place one pedestal 1 foot behind sidewalk in the right-of-way. Charter Communications. Start by boring, dig shallow hole of 2 feet by 2 foot by 4 foot and insert 4-inch bore head going northbound starting in front of 1717 Sublet Avenue, then bore in the right-of-way emerging up on customer's property at 1601 Sublet. Charter Communications to work on existing conduit in the alley between Texas and Jefferson, between Utah and Cherokee, 3,300 to 3,400 Texas. Total right-of-way footage is 762 feet. Charter Communications to bore and place two 2-inch ducts from pole behind 3133 Texas, south to 3147 Texas. Total right-of-way footage is 126 feet. Charter Communications to bore, place two 2-inch ducts from pole behind 2634 Arsenal, east across Texas, to the next pole at the site of 3112 Texas, also from 3112 Texas to 3152 Texas to repair existing conduit. Charter Communications to bore, place two 2-inch conduits from pole behind 2807 South Jefferson to the next pole south. Charter will place a pedestal and continue south 3 spans, 2855 South Jefferson. Total right-of-way footage is 366 foot. Charter Communications started a utility pole on the south side of 1831 South Kings Highway, bore trench 400 feet east to the rear of 4652 Shaw, where a second trench off the main trench going 40 feet south to the rear of 1920 South Kings Highway. Total right-of-way footage is 450 feet. Southwestern Bell Telephone Company, doing business as AT&T Missouri, started at an existing AT&T handhold located at the intersection of East Cary and Hall Street, where we will bore a fiber cable south down Hall Street and then place a 2 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot handhold at the front of 5500 Hall Street. And Southwestern Bell Telephone Company, doing business as AT&T Missouri, to access AT&T handhold at the front of 7200 Hall Street, trench 12 feet to power pole for aerial placement for 691 feet. At the end of the aerial placement, place a new 2 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot handhold, bore west across Hall Street, turn south, and trench for 148 feet. From the Directors of Public Utilities and Public Safety, recommendation for approval subject to certain conditions. For the Charles home to re-subdivide land at 4431 South Broadway and 2840 Osceola in City Block 2706. From the Directors of Streets, recommendation for approval subject to certain conditions for John Harrington to paint the flood wall from 1200 South Wharf to 2000 South Wharf on September the 11th through the 13th, 2015. From the Directors of Parks, Recreation, and Forestry, recommendation for approval subject to certain conditions for concession agreement extension with LASK LLC to continue to operate the Steinberg Skating Rink and Aviation Field concession in Forest Park for an additional year with the terminal date of September 30th, 2016. From the Director of Public Safety, 7 special event permits approved subject to certain conditions as follows. Bread of Gospel Festival, August 29th at Prairie from Page to Evans. Get in the Olive Grove, September 3rd at Olive and KETC Common Ground. Bosnian Fest at Beagle, September 6th at Morganford between Grabois and Walsh. Carr Square, September 6th at Loretta Hall Park, the entire park, and Carr from 15th to 16th, and Selby Place between Carr and Cole. Mexican Independence Day Festival, September 12th and 13th at Cherokee Street between Oregon and Ohio. It's a street festival. Froze Place Benefit, September 19th at Elwood from South Broadway to Alley west of Broadway. And Family Rocks, September 20th at 14th and Chestnut, east to 13th, north to Olive, west to Compton, turn around east to 18th, south to Chestnut, east to Finished at 15th and surrounding parks. Now we have the conditional use.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. I'm Bob Lordy. I'll be representing the building commissioner at today's meeting. Per Board Order 766, transmitted herewith are recommendations for the following conditional use agenda applications. Approval is recommended for 2 applications, 2125 Cherokee and 437 Fasten. Approval with conditions is recommended for 6 applications, 1617 Bird, 3833 Dover Place, 4949 Geraldine, 2100 East Grand, 4162 North Newstead, and 1230 Grattan. I request these recommendations be approved as submitted.
Does the board have any questions on the conditional uses? Seeing none, I'll take a motion, please.
Move to approve the conditional use permit recommendations.
Second.
It's been moved to approve the recommendations and seconded. Can you read the roll, please?
Director Scobie excused, Rundy excused, Hayes,
Aye.
Roth,
Aye.
Moore excused, Gray,
Aye.
President Bradley.
Aye. Approved. I'd like to open the floor for discussion on hearing number 8179. Any comments from the board?
Yeah, I think that the building division has not met its burden in this proceeding, and I think that even if there's a violation, that the violation is de minimis and would not support a loss of the occupancy permit. So my view is that it just was not the level of proof that would be needed to sustain the alleged violations, and that even insofar as there's some evidence of it, it's evidence of very minor violations that would not justify this business being closed.
Any other comments from the board?
I believe on the contrary, I think they have approached the ownership of this operation on more than one occasion. And somewhere along the line, whether it be verbal communication, lack of respect, or whatever, it was a choice that was made by that ownership not to take action in these 4 areas. And where we're failing at is, in some cases, We need to be able to support our frontline operation when we run into situations where owners make a choice, and we shouldn't be here. We shouldn't even be having this conversation had they listened to the direction that they have been given. And that direction has been given not once, not twice, not 3 times, more than that. And so, although the recommendation to take it, to totally end it is one thing, but the other is we really need to make sure that ownership understands that this cannot be tolerated. This is a waste of your time. It's a waste of all of our time, because it should not have gotten to this point where we're even having this conversation about this situation.
And I'd just like to build on that point just a little bit. We have a zoning inspector who's went out of her way to make sure that the owner understands what the violations are. And I do agree with your point that they are relatively minor. But in the same token, I understand that to correct them would be relatively minor. And I believe that what Director Gray's point is well taken, that we have to support the people in the field who are out enforcing the permits that we give out to do business. I got the same attitude from the person myself. You know, this is the way it is. This is what I'm going to do. I can have an open sign. How do they know I'm open? The simple answer is you came to this board and you asked for permission to have a business as a conditional use. And we granted that with certain conditions. And we expect, and I underline expect, that you maintain those conditions. And when someone comes along and calls the question, you should immediately rectify the problem. I understand the permit for the sign. Maybe you didn't understand that. Maybe you're working through that issue. But simply removing benches or simply taking stuff out of a case is a no-brainer and very easy to do, as opposed to arguing about it. And so that's the frustrating part. Now, the other side of the story is that I found a lot of solitude in the fact that a neighbor came in and took their time to say, it's a good business in the neighborhood, and that the person runs the business well. So to me, if we don't revoke this permit, it has absolutely nothing to do with the business owner. It has to do with the fact that the neighbor felt like it's a good business for the neighborhood. Any other comments?
President Bradley, the last comment you made, or the tail end of your discussion, was pretty much how I felt in terms of the support from the individual in the neighborhood. It doesn't negate the lack of respect, the lack of following policies and procedures that a few of you have alluded to. But what it tells me is there's potential for this business to succeed in a neighborhood where apparently there were a series of problems in the past. So keeping the business and not revoking the conditional use is what I'd recommend, but with a stringent turnaround time on these getting met. I mean, it speaks great volumes to know that there's pictures taken today when this city employee is, in my mind, we're talking about wasting our time. She's going to get the feeling that she's wasting her work ethic and her hard work out there if these businesses don't comply. So where I'm going with this is I'd like to see a very quick turnaround time, and then the conditional use revoked in the future on the first opportunity, or I should not opportunity, but the first inspection that shows lack of compliance. We just can't spend our time here for a business that needs to follow the rules.
I would like to add one more piece, and we can go after that. One of the items that the neighbor mentioned as he really thought was important for him was to have the cigarette roll. And I believe, that, if I may be mistaken, but wasn't that was one of the conditional uses that they could not sell?
Yeah, that's one of the conditions on his permit, is that he can't sell rolling papers.
Okay, so the paper that he spoke highly about that he had available is actually a violation of the conditional use. Okay. I just want to make sure we all understood that piece.
And I just want to point out with that is that you guys put the conditions on, that this board puts the conditions on the permit. So like when you're considering it during a revocation hearing, you also have the authority to amend the conditions as you see fit. So say if you think that is something that should be amended, then you have the power to do that at this point.
Well, and I would assume that the reason that condition is put on this particular permit is by the location and by issues that have arisen in the past. And so, although we probably could amend that, I would recommend we don't.
Right. And it's my understanding that that's been, in recent years, a standard condition placed on every convenience store. So that's one of the standard conditions, yeah. But there are reasons that it developed, for sure, yeah.
Based on all the prior correspondence and discussion with respect to the city councilor's legal clarification, I would also contend that nothing, given numerous discussions and paperwork, nothing should change on this conditional use. Everything that is not allowed will remain not allowed at that store.
I have one question. Is it true that the conditional permit as it exists today requires you to get a permit for a sign that says you're open or closed?
Every sign, it's my understanding, and maybe zoning staff can clarify, but it's my understanding that every sign needs a permit and that temporary signs are not permitted under the sign code.
So if there was a step and there was a sign that said watch your step, you would have to come down to City Hall and get a permit for a sign that says watch your step?
I can't answer that hypothetical. I think there might be some directional signs that don't need permits, but I can't answer that off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I would say the easiest way to answer that question would be is that the applicant would do diligence to contact the building division and ask the question and see what's required. And apparently the sign was installed without a permit and no questions were asked. And so he's working through the issue of questions and signs. And beyond that, I will say this to you. If it was simply above an open sign, if it was only concerning an open sign, that probably wouldn't be an issue with me. There's other issues here that could be simply corrected by walking into the store and taking 5 minutes to remove the items that are in question. The issue I have is the arrogance and the attitude that is expressed towards our frontline people that come out for 30 days, 60 days, and they ask people to comply, and they get told, we'll see you at City Hall. That's a problem. We're all here to work together. If she mentions something to the individual, then they should work together and get it resolved. It should not wind up at this board. Such a minute issue like this. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll take a motion, please.
Make a motion that the conditional use holder must comply within, I don't know if we can go less than 30 days. My motion would be within 30 days and to comply to all conditional use provisions. Absent that, the conditional use be revoked.
Okay, have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, can you call the roll, please?
Director Scobie, excused. Rundy, excused. Hayes.
Aye.
Roth.
Aye.
Moore, excused. Gray.
Aye.
President Bradley.
Aye, approved. Ask turn your attention to the meeting minutes from August 18th, 2015. Are there any additions or corrections to the moments? Seeing none, I'll take a motion, please.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Can you call the roll, please?
Director Scobie, excused. Rundy, excused. Hayes.
Abstain.
Roth.
Aye.
Moore, excused. Gray.
Aye.
President Bradley.
Aye, the minutes are approved. On the agenda for today's meeting, are there any questions or comments, corrections? Seeing none, I'll take a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Can you call the roll, please?
Director Scobie, excused. Rundy, excused. Hayes.
Aye.
Roth.
Aye.
Moore, excused. Gray.
Aye.
President Bradley.
Aye, the agenda is approved. Motion for adjournment, please.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, meeting adjourned.